Alright guys, welcome back. Who doesn't love a book haul? Let's go ahead and share all the books that I have acquired this last month. I found some really cool stuff. First we have Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee, and I did not realize that this is actually a play, and it follows two people, George and Martha, who I guess have this night of games, and it gets kind of crazy and kind of wild, and then it's the way that it ends that is just like the shock factor. Something happens, I don't know what happens, I'm gonna have to read to find out obviously. There's that one. Then we have Blackbird House by Alice Hoffman, and this okay, so Alice Hoffman, it's kind of 50-50 with her. I have read a couple of her books that I really enjoyed. Practical Magic and the prequel one to Practical Magic, so good. That one was probably one of my favorites. But then I read a couple others that I just really did not get along well with. But this one's got some things in it, and I don't want to go through and read the entire synopsis of it or anything like that, but there were definitely some specific things in this that grabbed my attention, and that is that it takes place small farm outside of Cape Cod. You probably can't hear that, but that is the thunder. It is coming. The storm has arrived. Oh, we're also in a tornado watch right now, so yeah. We have a main character that loves to read, and then we have some sort of betrayal that's supposed to happen, and then this person, there's somebody, a boarder. So I guess this Blackbird House has been around a really long time. A lot of people have lived there, and this person is a boarder who owns these red boots and changes the course of everything. So just sounds really, really cool. The Sweet Far Thing by Libba Bray, which is part of a series, and I already had these two books, A Great and Terrible Beauty, Rebel Angels, and now Sweet Far Thing. So now I don't know if there's any more in this series. I think this is it. I think it's just a trilogy, but I do really like Libba Bray's writing. I love the Diviners. I'm still looking for, I think, 2 more books in that series, and then I'll have the whole series of that as well. But I'm really looking forward to these books. I think it's like a Victorian kind of, I can't tell you what these are about. I forgot. Then I have The Archive of the Forgotten. This is part of a series with the Library of the Unwritten. I cannot wait to read these books. But then we have Ink and Sigil, and this one just sounds so cool to me. It's basically like magical tattoos. I'm so excited. I didn't realize this is actually a spin-off series to the Iron Druid Chronicles. I'm definitely gonna have to look into those books and see, because I probably wouldn't want to just jump into this. I want to make sure I do the reading order correctly. But then we have this one, Empire of the Summer Moon, and this is a nonfiction. For whatever reason, it didn't occur to me to start looking into reading like more books about the Native Americans. This is a topic that I am very interested in, especially since last summer we went to this whole Cherokee festival event, and it was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And we met a lot of different people who shared different ways. Like this guy like sat there and like made these little darts, and they're blowing darts. Yeah, he made like these blowing darts, and he was explaining how they're made, what they're made out of, that like they start making them at a very young age so they can start practicing like shooting little things, like little and then they'll graduate to like shooting squirrels, and then they'll graduate even farther, but they're working on honing those targeting skills and everything else from a very young age. It was so fascinating. And then some other things were like how they use turtle shells for these like things that go on like the ankles. So then during ceremony dances and stuff, when they like stomp, it makes the sounds and stuff and everything. Oh, the way they use different bones, like from a fish, they basically use every single thing. And there's like this bone in a fish that they will take and make fish hooks out of. That was really interesting. Just everything is so interesting. This book is sadly about the rise and fall of the Comanches. I'm not going to read everything on this, but although the readers may be more familiar with the Apache and the Sioux, it was in fact the legendary fighting ability of the Comanches that determined when the American West opened up. Comanche boys became adept at bareback riding by the age of 6. full Comanche braves were considered the best horsemen who ever rode. They were so masterful at war that they stopped the northern drive of colonial Spain from Mexico and halted the French expansion westward from Louisiana. So we'll see how this book goes because it's very much on the like American war and history and the war with the Native Americans. So that is, depending on how it's written, we'll see if it will, how readable it will be. Important nonfiction book. Then we have Dividing Eden, and honestly I don't know what this is about. It's like political monarchy pitting these twins against each other to figure out who will rule this kingdom. And they are apparently going to have to go through a bunch of trials and things like that. So I do really like games and trials in books, so I hope we got that one. Okay, I don't know if you remember, if you've seen these videos, but I was literally just talking about Nightshade, and wouldn't you know, I got lucky and found the first 3 books. So this is very exciting. I'm happy to have these. Then we have Ace of Spades. This is a book about, I guess it takes place in the school, and there is a group called the Aces who start pranking people, but then it turns into so much more. It kind of sort of reminds me of like Pretty Little Liars or something like that. Anyways, it looks like this is going to be pretty dramatic. School setting, maybe it's like a dark academia thing. So right, then we have The Mercies. This is inspired by a true story of 1600s Norway, early 1600s Norway, and a Scottish man who brings a Norwegian wife, and I guess all of this threatens to destroy this Norwegian town. So yeah, sounds really good. Then we have Vampires of the Lemon Grove by Karen Russell. I'm so excited to actually have a physical copy of this. I've had an ebook copy for the longest time, and every time I kind of sit down and try to read it, it's just like, I don't know, it's just not the right format, but I do really want to read it. This is a short story collection, and I'm assuming, so this is one of the stories, Vampires in the Lemon Grove, but I'll be honest, I don't know. Bestseller of Swamplandia. I remember that book sounded pretty good too. Which was the finalist for Pulitzer Prize. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure what all these are about. I think what really stuck with me is vampires, but yeah, so. Then we have Cast in Firelight by Dana Swift. I've never heard of this book, but it just, honestly, it's the cover that caught me because this is a very, like, signifies young adult fantasy, but so that's why I ended up picking it up and reading the cover, but on the cover, it says 2 royal heirs arranged to be married, but they made their own arrangements. And then the blurbs on the back say, spellbinding debut with cage-fighting witches, vigilante heroism, and intoxicating slow burn romance. Sign me up. Fun, fast-paced fantasy saturated in wonder with a pair of dynamic heroes will still your heart. You won't want it to end. Please tell me they're not lying. The romance and adventure unfolded brilliantly in the world that its characters swept me away. I enthusiastically recommend it. So, the next one is A Room with a View by E.M. Forrester. This is an author that I want to read more. I really want to read Maurice, but I, for the life of me, can never find a copy of Maurice. But I did find A Room with a View, and then I have Howard's End on my shelf as well, but yeah, so I'm happy to add that to my classics shelf. And then we have The Gap of Time by Jeanette Winterson. This is actually a Shakespeare retelling of, it's a Shakespeare retelling of A Winter's Tale. So if it's like an automatic buy if it's a Shakespeare retelling, but I have another one that has a cover very much like this. Here is another one that I have that has a cover very much like it. It's called Shylock is My Name, and this is a retelling of Merchant of Venice. But like, look how similar. Like, they look like they go together, don't they? So I'm wondering if this is like a whole thing. Okay, so this is part of London and New York. In 2012, Hogarth was launched in London and New York to continue the tradition. The Hogarth Shakespeare Project sees Shakespeare's works retold by acclaimed best-selling novelists today. Okay, so it's part of this like whole project series. That is really cool. I'm gonna have to get on. Okay, and then I have The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. Again, any of the Bronte sisters are an automatic buy. I am collecting all of their books. I don't know what this one's much about. All of these from this time are kind of about the same thing. Bronte's heroine, Helen, endured too many revolting scenes, deplored by contemporary reviewers, leaves her desolate husband in order to earn her own living and rescue her son from his influence. Oh, yeah. Anne Bronte feminist work. Okay. And then I have this another Oxford World Classic edition of John Keats' major works. And I like the Oxford Classics editions, but I do also have a Penguin Black of John Keats' work as well. This one's pretty beat up though, but that's okay. And I'm wondering if there's different things in these different ones, because this one's definitely bigger, but it could just be the paper as well. So anyways, I'm happy to have them. I can't say that I personally read a lot of Keats. I've started just because I've started reading a few bits here and there just because I own the books now, but I particularly became aware of John Keats because of one of my favorite books of all time, Dead Poets Society, and I loved that so much, and John Keats was a huge inspiration to the professor in the Dead Poets Society. So ever since then, I'm just like, I want to read Keats. The Red Pony by John Steinbeck. This is a really tiny little book. The beautiful, spirited red pony is everything Jody ever dreamed of. Raised on a ranch in Northern California, Jody is well schooled in the hard work and demands of a rancher's life. He is used to the way of horses too, but nothing has prepared him for the special connection he will forge with Gabalin, the hot-tempered pony his father gives him. With Billy Buck, the hired hand, Jody tends and trains his horse. What is it hard to say? Restlessly anticipating the moment he will sit high upon his saddle. But when the horse falls ill, Jody discovers there are still lessons he must learn about the ways of nature and particularly the ways of man. Oh no. Oh no. This is going to be really sad, isn't it? Then we have All the Horses of Iceland by Sarah Tolmie. This apparently is about, so this takes place in Iceland, obviously. And I didn't know this, but apparently there's all these Icelandic horses. They are small, and at some point in time, they were brought over to Iceland from somewhere. And this is supposed to kind of go into that, but it also claims to go into like the mysticism and the magic of it all. And I don't think that I can't decide if this is supposed to be like a fantasy or if it's supposed to be a nonfiction but told in a fantastical way. So we'll just have to see, but I'm intrigued because it's also really small. Hypnotic historical fantasy with gorgeous and unusual literary prose from the captivating author of The Fourth Land. Yeah, it says it's a fantasy. And then the very last one, Letters from Yellowstone, winner of the Pacific Northwest Bestsellers Association Book Award for Fiction by Diane Smith. In stunning turn-of-the-century Yellowstone, a young woman experiences the joys of the wilderness and the passion of discovery. 1898, feisty young woman with a love for botany, invited to join a field of study in Yellowstone National Park. Its leader, a mild-mannered professor from Montana, mistakenly assumes she is a man and is less than pleased to discover the truth. Once the scientists overcome the shock of having a woman in their team, they forge ahead on a summer of adventure, forming an enlightening web of relationships as they move from Mammoth Hot Springs to Camp High in the backcountry. Oh, this sounds so exciting, and it's, again, really short. How many pages is it? 226. And that's it. That's everything that I have acquired. But I did thought I would go ahead and mention that I'm thinking at some point this month, I am a little bit behind on my goals if I'm going to reach my Goodreads goal of 200 books read for the year. I need to play a little bit of catch up, so I'm thinking of doing a challenge where I read as many books as I can that are under 200 pages. Look forward to that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.